Today we'll be making these adorable patterned penguin portraits. For this project, you'll need a piece of paper, a pencil, and something circular to trace that's a little bit bigger than your fist. A DVD would work great for this, a coaster, you could flip a bowl upside down, or even a lid from a container. Once you have your object to trace that's a little bit bigger than the size of your fist, go ahead and put it a little bit above halfway on your paper. Make sure it's a full hand width from the top because that is where we will add our penguin's hat. Once our circle's traced, we'll add our penguin's beak. Notice that it's an upside down triangle that's curved at the top and 3 fingers width wide. It's also about halfway down our penguin's head. Next, we'll add the bottom of the beak by connecting from one corner to the other with a curved line. This line looks a lot like the letter U. Next, we're going to add a curved line on either side of the beak. These will connect from the corner of the beak and go up almost to the top of the head and then come back down and connect to the side. Next, we'll add 2 large ovals for the eyes. Notice that they'll come just a little bit below the top of the beak. We want them to really be nice and big. Next, we'll add a highlight to each eye. These areas are going to be left white. The highlight should either be on the right side of both eyes together or the left side of both eyes. Try to make them about the size of your fingertip. Next, we'll find the widest part of our penguin's face and draw a curved line on each side. When we're done with that, we will connect from one to the other. This will be the color of the penguin's shirt. Make sure it's at least 2 fingers wide. Now it's time to add the shoulders. To do this, we're going to add a diagonal line that curves a little bit and goes off the edge of the paper and stops about a hand width from the bottom. Now it's time to separate the penguin's wings from its belly. To do this, we're going to add a curved line on either side coming down from the corner of the collar and going off the edge of the paper. So we'll add one to the left and then we'll add one to the right. Now it's time to add something on top of the penguin's head. If you want to do ear muffs, you could just add an oval on either side and a curve connecting them. But there's many other options, and the other options will need a rim. So unless you're doing the earmuffs, let's go ahead and add our rim by putting a curved line on each side of the penguin's head down towards where his eyes are, and then bumping up and connecting between the two. Now for most of these hats, after you draw the rim, you'll just add a large curve on top. After that, if you want to add pom-poms or little puff balls, accessories, you can. This style right here is the most challenging out of all of them, and it's also just the most different. So that's the one that I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate. But you, of course, can pick whichever one you'd like to do. The first thing that we're going to do is a very large curve. Notice that at its widest, it's about even with the penguin's cheeks. Then we'll add a curve to the left and connect to the edge of the hat, and a curve to the right. Make sure you leave about a finger width in between each of your curved lines. Finally, we'll add 3 to 4 skinny rectangles to the ends to make it look like pom-poms. Next, we're going to add curved lines that'll separate the patterns that we're going to add. I would like to see you add 3 or 4 curved lines to your penguin's belly. Try to leave about 2 to 3 fingers width each in between each curved line so that we can fit our big, bold patterns. If you're left with a big section at the bottom, just add a slight curve on each side connecting from the penguin's belly to the bottom of the paper. Now it's time to add some curved lines to our hat. You might be able to fit 1 or 2 curved lines to your hat to separate your different sections of pattern. Now it's time to add our patterns. To do this, we're going to start off by talking about the different types of line. The most commonly used types of lines are straight, loop-de-loop, spiral, zigzag, scalloped, wavy, curved, and I like to add in castle block. These are all types of lines that we can use to create pattern on our penguin sweaters and hats. To create our pattern sweater, we're going to start off filling in every other section with a type of line. So we will add a line and then we will skip a section, and then we will add a line and then we will skip a section. As you are adding your types of lines, make sure that you are touching both the bottom line and the top line. You'll also want to make sure that your shapes are nice and big, bigger than your finger. That way, it'll be easier for you to color later. Now remember, we're adding our lines into every other section, so we'll skip the second section and add our lines into this third section right here. So now I'll pick a new line, and again, make sure it touches the top and the bottom. Now remember, these are just the lines that I'm choosing to add, but you could choose different ones. For example, maybe instead here you choose castle block or zigzag. Or you could even do a straight line going in a different direction. Maybe it's going vertical, which is up and down, or diagonal. After you've drawn your second line, skip another section and add your third if you have room. Make sure that this is a new type of line. Since I've already drawn the last line side to side, I think I'm going to have these curved lines go in a diagonal. Now let's look at some shapes that you might choose to use in between some of your line patterns. These are all examples of geometric shapes. For those of you that know what organic shapes are, you might choose to use some of those as well. Organic shapes are shapes found out in nature. For example, a flower, a leaf, a seashell, a cloud. Those are all shapes that are found out in nature. They're a little bit more irregular. They tend to be a little bit more rounded, and they're not always equal on the top and bottom or side to side. A leaf is an example of an organic shape. Remember, you can use organic or geometric shapes, but just like we did with the lines, we'll want to make sure that they touch both the top and the bottom and are at least the size of our finger so that we have lots of area to color. Remember, you're going to choose a new shape for each section and repeat it all the way across. For those of you that like to add stars, you might choose to do this technique and then erase any lines in the middle that you don't need. Once you're done with the pattern on your penguin's belly, go ahead and add some pattern to the hat. Make sure that you're following some of the same rules. All lines should touch the top and the bottom, and make sure that any shapes that you add are at least the size of your finger. Now it's time to decide if your penguin's arms are going to be left blank, like he's wearing a sweater vest, in which case you will later color them black, or are you going to add some pattern so that he's wearing a full sweater? I'm choosing on this one to go ahead and to add a pattern by using a shape, but you could also use lines to create your pattern. Which one will you choose, a sweater or a sweater vest? Once you are done drawing your penguin, given them a hat, and added pattern using basic lines and shapes, you will take a black drawing material and outline your penguin. If you are using a Sharpie or a marker, you will definitely want to have a placemat underneath or a scrap sheet of paper to protect the surface that you're working on. Once you finish outlining in Sharpie, go ahead and erase all pencil lines that are still showing. Now it's time to color our penguin. Let's begin by coloring the eyes and the area of the face that is going to be black. Then look at your penguin. If you left the arms empty, then your penguin is wearing a sweater vest and you'll color them black. If you added a pattern, you'll leave them alone. Since our patterns look really nice, we want to make sure our coloring does as well. So we're going to take one color and color in each section or each shape the same color, or we can alternate between two different colors. For those of you that know how to color blend, you could also try some of that on your penguin as well. Make sure that you outline the inside of the section that you're going to color first before coloring it in. When it's time to color it in, color in multiple directions. That will help keep your coloring from looking streaky. The other thing that you can do is after you outline, go ahead and color in a circular motion. This will also keep your crayon from looking like it has lines or streaks. This will help make it look nice and even. Instead of coloring over my lines, I'm going to go ahead and use a different color on top. That'll make my pattern more interesting. Colors that look really nice together are a light and dark version of the same color. So here I used a dark pink and a light pink. You can also try using cool with warm colors. So for example, cool colors would be purple, green, or blue, like I'm using here. After I use my blue, I'm going to switch to a warm color for the bottom section. Warm colors are colors that remind us of fire, like red, orange, or yellow. Warm colors are the opposite of cool colors, and this will add a nice pop to your picture. You might also enjoy coloring the inside of a shape one color and then outlining in another, like I did here on the bottom. For a unique effect here, I am taking a darker orange and adding a little bit to the tips of all of my light orange triangles. Next, I added some dark blue to the bottoms of all of my light blue triangles. See, isn't that unique? Whichever coloring combinations or techniques you choose to use, just make sure that you are coloring in multiple directions, you are staying inside of your lines, and you're filling in all of the white areas of each section. Also, it's really important to make sure that you're not just coloring across the lines, that you're actually coloring along with the patterns. Finally, for the beak, we're going to take a orange. I chose a light orange, and we're going to go ahead and color the whole beak. If you would like to get the effect that I was able to achieve with the penguin, on the left, we will take a darker orange and we will add a little bit of darker orange to all edges. So underneath that V shape that we made with the top beak and down and around the edges.